who thought making love on your parents' bed will land in big trouble with the African gods. Hello, welcome back to the home of lost and untold mythologies, where we cover bizarre and mysterious stories from different communities around the world. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you can receive notifications as soon as I upload new videos. Today, we are going to look at 10 taboos in the Kamba community that will place one at odds with the African gods. Just like every other community around the world, the Kamba people had no formal political systems before civilization was brought by the Europeans in the 19th century. This means that they lived in accordance to specific rules provided to them by the gods through their elders and seers. Kambas called these elders 𝗤𝗛𝗣𝗣𝗢. These guidelines also included things the Kambas were prohibited from doing. And if anyone decided to go against the instructions of the gods, they would usually be struck with an illness that had no cure. The Kambas called this illness 𝗤𝗛𝗣𝗣𝗢. The bodies of those who are struck with the disease will just start deteriorating, and traditional medicine men will not be able to tell what was wrong with them. With that in mind, here are 10 of the most interesting taboos in the Kamba community. To this day, most Kamba communities still observe this rule. If a parent passes away, no child is allowed to touch any of their belongings, not even a broom. What the family will do instead is they will pull all the belongings of the deceased in one place, then call an elder to come and share the belongings among the family. And if the elder decides to give a specific property to someone, no one has the right to complain or throw a tantrum. So, for instance, let us say 𝗤𝗪𝗣𝗣𝗢 gets the slippers but his brother 𝗤𝗪𝗣𝗍𝗪𝗍 gets the mansion. 𝗤𝗪𝗣𝗍𝗪 will have to suck it up because the god's representative has decided. This brings me to my second taboo. If Chomboyo inherits his parents' mansion, he is not allowed to live in it. He has two choices: either turn the house into something else, like a store, or wait until his children are old enough to move into the house. Grandchildren can live in their grandparents' house because, according to tradition and ancestry, they are technically considered to be in the same mindset. I will soon create a video touching on this subject, so make sure you subscribe so you receive notification. Speaking of husbands and wives, I know, it keeps getting interesting. Just like most, if not all, African communities, when a lady gets married in the Kamba community, she leaves her parents' home to go and start her own family with her husband at the husband's ancestral land. And after getting married, she is not allowed to move anything from her parents' compound to her new homestead. What is even more bizarre about this mistake is that if the lady goes against the gods and does it, the curse won't befall her, it will affect her husband instead. I think 𝗤𝗪𝗣𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗪𝗍𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙𝗙 this type of justice using an example. Let us say Musembi accidentally kills one of Mbaluka's family members. According to the Kamba tradition, Musembi's standard punishment is to pay 7 bulls if the victim is male and 14 bulls if the victim is a lady. Kambas call this Monzomwe, meaning 7 times 1, or Myonzele, meaning 7 times 2. And I am not talking about your standard sized bulls. I am talking about the biggest bulls Kambas call Kalasinga. That said, this is not the 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗍𝗘𝗔𝗡𝗡𝗟 I am talking about. Now, let us say Musembi promises to pay as per requested but fails to deliver on his promises. Mbaluka will have to send village elders to Musembi's homestead so they can try persuading him. If he still fails to pay, then they will be forced to perform the 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗍𝗘𝗔𝗡 ritual. 𝗦𝗨𝗣𝗍𝗘𝗔𝗡𝗡 means carrying out a ritual that is intended to wipe out an entire family. In this case, Musembi's entire family will start to perish one by one. I know, it's scary. Having said that, there were cases where people like Mbaluka will carry out the rituals without consulting the elders or following the right methods. This was a big mistake before the gods. Remember, the ritual is only set aside as a last resort. So, If Mbaluka goes on and carries it out without respecting the right channel, the god will curse his family with a jinx that will be passed from generation to generation until the 5th generation. I think this will be easier to explain using a short narration as well. Let us say Musembi has 2 children and he is the second child, with Musyoka being the firstborn and Musili the lastborn. If Musembi unexpectedly passes away, his children cannot be adopted by Musili's family immediately. A ritual has to be carried out first by the elders to cleanse the children before they can even set foot into their uncle's homestead. And if Musili does not do that and instead decides to adopt the children right away, then according to tradition, he will have adopted death. This means that his own children will start perishing one by one. Note though, Musyoka, the firstborn, can adopt Musembi's children without going through any rituals. This goes without saying. I do not think a sexual relationship between people who have a close blood relation is allowed anywhere. But if the rules are different where you come from, please leave a comment below. I'd like to hear about it. This taboo goes on to show that ancient African gods do not love hypocrites as well. You must have heard of witchcraft, I'm sure. Well, it's a real thing in Africa as well. In fact, the Kamba community has a reputation throughout East Africa when it comes to witchcraft. However, just like what happened in the Greek mythology, the introduction of Christianity in Africa hugely reduced the Kamba's dependency on witchcraft. That said, to explain this taboo, let us assume Musembi wants to take the life of his friend, 𝗖𝗛𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗍, and in order to avoid paying the bulls we mentioned earlier, he decides to adopt a more stealth method, that is, witchcraft. If he is successful, then he is not allowed to cry at 𝗖𝗛𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗍's funeral. Doing so will mean that he will soon follow and die. The witch he went to isn't allowed to cry over 𝗖𝗛𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗍's death either. This is one of the most interesting ones in my perspective. What it basically means is that if Musembi visits any relative from his mother's side, he and his wife are not allowed to engage in any sexual activities. And this does not just include the relatives' houses. They cannot do it in the nearby bushes either. This is something I started hearing about before I even learned what 𝗖𝗛𝗧𝗧𝗧. Doing it on a parent's bed is a big no in the Kamba community. And if you're caught doing it, family elders will deal with you perpendicularly, even before the gods get a chance to lay their punishment on you. Just like with most traditional families around the world, when a Kamba man is ready to start a family, he will receive a land portion from his parents so he can use it to build his own home. So, let us say Musembi is the last one and he has 5 brothers. The first 4 will receive pieces of land to build their huts when they feel ready to start their families. But Musembi, the last one, will inherit the land on which his parents' houses are built. This is usually the tradition. However, the parents are not allowed to move or build a house in one of the first 4 children's land. I hope that makes perfect sense. Doing so will usually result in the child receiving a curse. That's it for today. See you again next week. And if you like my content, please do not forget to smash the like button and subscribe. This will help the channel grow and allow me to make more videos. Thank you and see you next week.